What's up, YouTube? Boy, back once again with another sport topic. In the day, gonna talk some football, Houston Texans football. Say, the Texans got some cash space this year. We got some money on the salary cap. So, hey, it's time to go shopping. It's time to spend some of this bread. Let's talk about it. Before we get in there, like I'm telling you before me, if you're liking the content, make sure you're liking the channel. Make sure you're watching all the videos. You commenting all the videos. You liking all the videos. You sharing all the videos on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, any type of social media platform you use. Make sure you share it on the same social media platforms. Also, follow me on social media as well. The link in the description below. We're still in the race to get to 6,000 subscribers. So you know what that means. I need you to do your part. I can't get to 6,000 subscribers without y'all. So I need you to like, share, and subscribe, and let's get this channel growing and growing and growing. Really, really appreciate that. Now, let's talk about it. Like I said, we got a lot of money on the salary cap. And I know I've been talking about, hey, I want to spend money on defense. I want to go get a corner or a safety or a defensive lineman, some linebackers, things like that. I want to make this defense extremely strong defense to help give our offense extra possessions and short fields. But I can't ignore what is probably one of the biggest holes on the team. If not, you can make an argument that it is our biggest hole and our biggest need. And that's the running back position. They actually have an actual dynamic playmaker at the running back position. We just seen the C.J. Stroud win Offensive Rookie of the Year and actually be in the MVP conversation with a rookie receiver in Tank Dell, with a third-year receiver in Nico Collins having the best year of his career. We've seen that Bobby Slowick going out there getting head coaching interviews as an offensive coordinator and things like that. Gerard Johnson, the quarterbacks coach, also getting offensive coordinator interviews as a 1 year as a quarterbacks coach. Do you know how lethal this offense would be if you actually had an actual threat at the running back position? So let's talk about actually going out there and getting an actual dynamic playmaker at the running back position. And one of the ones that I think that we should target, probably our main target, is Saquon Barkley. I know a lot of y'all been doing a lot of y'all investigating work right now. I see a whole bunch of things about how he's starting to follow a lot of Texans. He's starting to follow over the last 10 to 12 hours. He's followed C.J. Stroud. He's followed Tank Dell, followed Nico Collins, I think Brevin Jordan, J.J. Watt, and things like that. And it looks like the Giants more than likely are not going to tag him. I don't really think they would, because that was kind of the issue the last couple years because of him not getting a long-term contract. So I can see them probably just going ahead and letting him walk. And if you look at his market value is only at $9.9 million. The guy's at the age of 27. And I think he can have a extremely explosive look onto his offense. I actually compare him to possibly having a type of resurgence, kind of like Christian McCaffrey. Because if you go look at Saquon Barkley's rookie year, which is probably his best year, had 1,300 yards, averaged 5 yards a carry, had 11 rushing touchdowns, caught 91 catches. If he was on this team, that would have led the Texans in receptions. Had 700 yards, 4 touchdowns from receiving, 0 fumbles, coughed up the ball 0 times. The year that they went to the playoffs in 2022, another 1,300-yard season, averaged 4.4 yards a carry, had 10 rushing touchdowns, caught 57 passes. Will put him third behind Nico and Dalton Schultz in receiving. He was on the Texans. Had 338 yards catching, had 0 receiving touchdowns, only had 1 fumble, didn't lose the fumble, but had 1 fumble. And then this past year, had 962 yards, only averaged 3.9 yards a carry. That is a concern. Had 6 rushing touchdowns, caught 41 catches. We only put him behind Nico, Tank, and Dalton Schultz in catching for the Texans. Had 280 yards in the air, and also had 4 receiver touchdowns. Now, he did have 2 fumbles and lost both of them, but it was only 2. And if you look at some of these other running backs, what they be fumbling, the fumbles that they give up, that's nothing. Him having 2 fumbles is nothing. Now, you do want to hang on to the football. You do want to recover as a team. But actually, him having those low amount of fumbles is actually a good thing. Trust me, when I get to how the other running backs are carrying the football. But you talk about a guy who was at worst probably 45% of the offense, if not 50% of the offense in New York. That's a huge number and a huge volume of being used for offense being 40, 45, 50% of the offense. Now, when you look at Christian McCaffrey's best year in 2019 had 1,300 yards rushing, had averaged 4.8 yards a carry, 15 rushing touchdowns, caught 116 catches, caught 1,000 yards in the air, and 4 receiver touchdowns. That was in 2019. Had some injury concerns. Ended up getting traded to San Francisco in the same similar offense that the Texans run. Now, this past year, offensive player of the year, rather, was in the MVP conversation, possibly should have won MVP, had over 1,400 yards rushing, 5.4 yards per carry, 14 rushing touchdowns, caught 67 receiving yards, 564 yards in the air, and 7 receiving touchdowns. Now, he did have 3 fumbles, but that's the type of difference that he had. And again, before his last 2 years at Carolina, now he only played 2 games in 2020, but had 225 yards, and then 2021 had 442 yards in Carolina. So again, same thing, injuries, being misused, overly used, because those 2 years are coming right after this high volume year he had in 2019 when he caught when he had 1,300 yards on the ground, almost 1,400 yards because it's 1,387, so almost 1,400 yards on the ground, and then caught 1,000 yards in the air. Had 15 receiving touchdowns and 15 rushing touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns. Caught 116 catches. A lot being very high volume used. Kind of basically got run down to the ground a little bit, and then backdoor in this offense that puts the football in the air. And again, also playing with Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuels, and Brandon Ayuk and Kittles, able to have a resurgence of his career and able to utilize him properly. Now, if you look at the other running backs that are going to possibly be free, you got Derrick Henry, who's a 30-plus year running back. He's looking at averaging $10.3 million. That's his market value. You got Josh Jacobs at the age of 26. His market value is $10.6 million. Austin Eckler at the age of 28. His market value is only 7.4, but in the last 2 years, he's had 10 fumbles. He's had 5 fumbles this past year and 5 fumbles the year before that. So in 2 years, he's fumbled the ball 10 times. And last year, he lost all 5 fumbles. DeAndre Swift, who I'm actually high on at the age of 25, only his market value is only at $6.7 million. And then you got Tony Pollard at the age of 26. His market value is $6.5 million. If you want to go cheap, I would go with DeAndre Swift because he could give you the same thing as far as rushing and receiving. He's a threat at the backfield. When you look at Saquon Barkley, I think that out of all these guys, Saquon Barkley in this offense has the biggest factor to give you a Christian McCaffrey type resurgence. I mean, I think if you put him in, like, again, he's not going to be utilized the way he was utilized, or as much as he was utilized in New York. And also, you got C.J. Stroud, you got Tank Dell, you got Nico Collins, potentially a rookie at 23 in the receiving threat. You got Dalton Schultz and things like that. I'm pretty sure they'll end up bringing Dalton Schultz back. And then you also got Bobby Slowick. Now, Bobby Slowick does need to improve on him scheming up the running game, and we do need to get better at run blocking. But again, our offensive line, even though we put a lot of value, we paid our 2 bookend tackles, we traded and paid our right guard, we drafted a center, and we drafted a left guard. We have yet to see our full-fledged offensive linemen not only play, but play in the right positions, because Tyus Howard didn't get to play right tackle. We had Fannin at right tackle. So we didn't get to see Juice at the center and things like that. Patterson, who was having a great year to start off the year at center, ended up getting hurt. So we haven't got to see our full offensive line. Larry Tunsil had an incredible year, especially the game he had against Cleveland showed you why he's the highest paid left tackle in the game. So again, I think that we should be hopeful for our offensive line. I do think they need to get better at run blocking. I think Juice Scruggs is actually a very good run blocker. He's a very nasty run blocking type of offensive lineman, and I think that's what we type in. Now, we get a lot of guys who are a little bit finesse when you talk about Tyus Howard and Larry Tunsil. We do have those type of aspects, and those guys out there being finesse type of guys. But I do think once we get everybody together and we get everybody playing together, and again, you get a running back like a Saquon Barkley, I think those things can be fixed. I think those things we can start being more of the type of running game that we want. Again, this guy Saquon Barkley can have to catch out the backfield, and he can also is good at pass blocking as well. So that's another benefit to C.J. Stroud. He's a good pass blocker, and he's also a good receiving threat. As you've seen, 91 catches one year. The year that they went to the playoffs, where he was a huge reason why they ended up paying Danny Dimes a $40 million contract, because he was able to get to the playoffs and win a playoff game, had 57 catches. This past year with Danny Dimes and Tyrod Taylor and whoever the other guy that came in, I forgot number 15. I forgot what his name is. He comes in. You get 41 catches, 280 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Again, being a receiving threat, being really their only really threat and real option coming out of the backfield, running the football and receiving. Now again, my only concern really is that 3.9, and I think that got something to do with the Giants' offensive line not being a good offensive line because their offensive line is way worse than ours, and also him being the focal point. They're loading up the box because they know that Saquon Barkley is the only real threat that they have. And again, he's at the age of 27, and again, his market value stays right now $9.9 million. If I'm the Texans, I'm offering him 3 years, anywhere between $30 to $32 million. That gives him anywhere between $10 to $10.6 million average per year, and I'm giving him $15 to $16 million guaranteed. That way, the first year and a half of the contract is guaranteed, and then if things go awry, by that third year, you be able to get off of them with no penalty, or even the second year, if you need to get rid of them off of the second year, you may be get out of there with a small penalty. That's what I would do, because one of the big concerns why he had the issue between him and the Giants the previous year was because of the contract. They franchise tagged him. He wanted a long-term deal. They didn't want to give him a long-term deal because of the injuries, and that is a concern. Same thing with Chris McCaffrey in Carolina. So I think because of that, I'm like, hey man, I'm not playing around. I'm gonna give you your years, 3 years. He's 27. Derrick Henry's 30 right now. 3 years, he'll be 30. So his contract will end around the time that we talking about paying. That's why I want to pay Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's 30 years old already. He's talking about getting $10.3 million. That's his market value. And the Titans constantly run him into the ground. He's had the highest number of carries the last 4 of the last 5 years. He's had the highest numbers. He's led the league in carries 4 out of the last 5 years. The only year that he did not lead the league in carries was the year he missed half the season because he got hurt. 2019, 2020, led the league in carries. 2021, he missed half the season. 2022, and this past year in 2023, led the league in carries. He's had a high usage of carries. So he's been running to the ground, and he's at the age of 30. He might be productive this year, but it's the other years that I'm more concerned about when it comes to Derrick Henry. So again, I would much rather go after Saquon, better throw out the backfield anyway, and he's slightly cheaper. I would pay him a little bit more. I would give him $30 to $32 million. That would put him at $10 to $10.6 million a year. And again, I'll give him $15 to $16 million fully guaranteed. That way you can get up off the contract off of a year and a half. That's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. That's the way that I would get through this. That's exactly what I would do if I'm the Houston Texans to get through this. And I think it's a perfect fit. I think it's a perfect fit with him because I think he gets into this offense. He's like, man, this is the best offense I've ever been in. I ain't never been in an offense that run this ball, this move. We was with Devin Singletary not being the primary back for over half the season. Almost got 1,000 yards. Not being the primary back for almost the whole season, and still was able to get right there to 1,000 yards. You get a guy like Saquon, he gonna get you close to 2,000 yards. I'm not saying he's going to give you exactly what Christian McCaffrey gives you and be Offensive Player of the Year, but he's going to give you that type. Now, again, there are been some talks about maybe Alvin Kamara might be a cap hit. They might end up getting off of Alvin Kamara's contract. Alvin Kamara is old. He has 2 years left on his deal, and he is owed, I think, $33 million. I think he's owed $11 million this year, and then next year he's off for $22 million. So I can see them being, the Saints actually cutting him. And then Alvin Kamara, because another guy that you could possibly get. Alvin Kamara's a guy that's going to get you about 800 yards running and 800 yards receiving, too. Like, he's a better threat out the backfield as a receiving threat. But Saquon's a better running back. I think he's better utilized as a running back. But I wouldn't mind Alvin Kamara either. Like I said, if you want to go cheap, I will go after DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift can give you that same type of, maybe not he's not as good as a running back or as good as a passing threat as Saquon. I think Saquon is better. But no, he's cheaper. I mean, he'll be cheaper, and he's younger because, like I said, DeAndre Swift is 25, 2 years younger, and also you're talking about $3 to $4 million cheaper than Saquon Barkley be. So if you want to go from a young age route, young and also less costly, I would go with DeAndre Swift. You could potentially wait for if Alvin Kamara gets cut, things like that. But I think the primary target really should be Saquon. I know I said spend money on defense, defensive line, secondary, and linebackers. And I think most of the money should be spent on that. I think Saquon should be the first person we should be calling, honestly. I think Saquon Barkley should be, because you do that, your offense is set. And again, think about, because I've been saying this on record. I feel like, because this is before the Chiefs had actually ended up winning the Super Bowl. I thought if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans and the Chiefs host the start kickoff the season. Think about how much juice that game will have. Patrick Mahomes versus C.J. Stroud. You got Chris Jones. You got Chris Jones. You got Travis Kelce. You got Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and you add Saquon Barkley into the mix.